So I think this Zoe Kravitz person has a bright future as a feature film director. Don't you, Bahir?
Yeah, not bad. Pretty good.
Can?
Yeah.
Can?
Yeah. I'm curious to see what she does next.
I know. I'm really excited about this movie. Blink Twice, which is Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut. It is in Malaysian cinemas this week, and I think I can describe the movie safely without spoiling anything as a Midsommar meets the Me Too movement.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going for vibes and mood because I don't want to say anything else that may spoil this movie. And I say that because it is a thriller, but as I was watching it, I had no idea where it was going. And so, to give you a brief overview on what it's about, Channing Tatum plays a tech billionaire. Naomi Aki is the lead. They meet at a party and he invites her along with a whole bunch of other people to his rich person island. Everything looks cool and it looks like everyone's having a fun time and a party time, but nothing is as it seems. And I think that is all I am happy to talk about. Like, that is all I will say about the plot of this movie because that's all I went into this knowing. Like, that's what I got from the trailer. And I'm glad I went in that way because I was guessing throughout. And then when the reveal happens, it feels like, oh, of course, it's that thing. But at the same time, Zoe Kravitz doesn't pull any punches. And so she goes to the dark places where you expect a show like this to go to. And I really appreciated that.
It's not just where you expect it to go, but where you want it to go.
Like, you don't want to feel shortchanged, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, Zoe Kravitz never revels in the thing, right? In that place that she goes to, she never revels in the violence, the pain, the nightmare of it all. And I appreciate that. I think a lot of the time, less accomplished storytellers may want to sort of hang out there a bit too much, I feel, just because they want to show the audience how serious it is. And look at the pain, look at her face, look at her eyes. She's in so much pain. She's going through so much trauma. But Zoe Kravitz never does it. And she holds her hand back, which actually, if you think about it, is scarier.
It is, because this isn't trauma porn. Like, you get
Yes.
desensitized to trauma porn. What was that Kerry Washington movie we saw, Bahir? The one about modern day slavery, where she gets kidnapped and then she gets taken into
Yeah.
like a modern day antebellum, right?
I
Was
think
it
it's
called Antebellum?
I think it's called Antebellum. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that and thinking, this is a very clever concept. It's a cool idea. But I think there was a little bit of torture porn there that had me desensitized by the end of the film.
Yes.
I enjoyed that
correct.
movie, but I think the way Zoe Kravitz pulls this off is a lot cleverer. And I think that's what I want to talk about because her technique as a filmmaker, for a first time filmmaker, is phenomenal. Like, we encounter movies like this all the frickin' time. Blumhouse loves movies like this. Netflix loves movies like this. They're a dime a dozen. And yet, this is the only one that I've seen in a very long time with a distinct sense of style.
Yeah.
She uses close-ups in a way that is phenomenal, that actually creates tension, that actually does what she wants it to do, which is to make you lose any sense of time and place that you might have. And that also feeds into the story that the movie is trying to tell.
When the movie starts off, the close-ups feel a little too close. It feels a little too in your face.
Yeah, but it also makes you question why.
No, but I think later on, that use of the extreme close-up really amps up the discomfort. There really isn't a lot of tension here. I mean, there are tense moments, but what is pervasive throughout this film is a sense of foreboding and discomfort.
Correct, because the medium shot in cinema is the standard shot. That's what everyone uses. It's pretty pedestrian, but it's just par for the course. When someone uses extreme close-up or extreme wide, it usually makes you sit up and take notice because you're like, wait, something is going on. Why are they doing this? There is an
Yeah.
intent behind it.
Yes.
Well, at least with the good filmmakers. And here with Zoe Kravitz, like you pointed out, Bahir, at first there's a discomfort and you don't know why she's doing it. But then as the movie progresses, even with some of the most abrupt cuts, you understand why. At first I was like, wait, did LPF get their hands on this movie? And then as the movie was progressing, I was like, oh, no, wait, that was also done with intent because everything begins to become clear as you reach that third act and climax. I am as in awe with this as I was with Jordan Peele and his directorial debut, because yet again, Jordan Peele, coming from a comedic background, coming from Key and Peele, Zoe Kravitz is a veteran actor by now. She's been in so much stuff. But this feels like the work of someone who's been doing it for a very long time.
There's something to be said about just because you've been in front of the camera for a long time, just because you're a veteran actor does not make you an automatic good director. I also want to point out that Zoe Kravitz, although she's been in a lot, she hasn't actually led a lot.
No, I think the closest is probably Catwoman, right? As a second lead.
Like, for example, I don't know about anybody else, but I keep forgetting she's in the Fantastic Beasts series.
Oh, yeah, she is. Although she led the High Fidelity reboot on Hulu.
Yeah, but to be fair, that was not very good.
No, it was not.
Yeah. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that just because she's been in the industry since 2007 doesn't automatically make her potentially a good director. However, this movie is definitely a good indication that she's actually a pretty good director.
I think the thing I liked most about the movie, besides her directorial chops, is also how well it was written. I think the story is structured in a very fascinating way. It's telling this story which is rooted in the Me Too movement and the conversations we've been having over the past few years, and yet it doesn't come off as preachy in any way. My Midsommar comparison earlier was because there is a lot of this movie that feels like that fever dream that Ari Aster was going for.
Yep.
And yet, in this one, it doesn't feel like an arty effort. It doesn't feel like she is trying to be artistic. It actually reflects what is happening in the film. That fever dream idea is what people are experiencing in the film. And so you, as the audience, are experiencing it as well as the story slowly opens up and you begin to figure what is going on. Like, it's written so well that there are all of these, I say in inverted commas, throwaway lines. They're not at all throwaway because they're intentional, but throwaway lines that put the point across as to what is happening on screen, and yet nothing is elaborated to the point where you roll your eyes and go, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. Thanks for the TED Talk, right?
Yeah, but I think there's also an interesting thing here that she and her co-writer do, in that all of those, again, inverted comma throwaway lines, it pays off later, but it doesn't pay off in the
obvious way,
in like a payoff sort of way.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a Chekhov's gun with dialogue kind of situation. All those throwaway lines, in inverted commas, come back to set up the mood for what's happening later. It's not that the other characters are saying these lines as like a wink, wink, nod, nod. They're just saying it. However, when the reveal happens, those lines now come back as something more than just someone being concerned about your well-being. I also want to point out, this movie has got some of the best sound design.
Oh my God, it's so good.
If you're planning on watching this, and I think you should definitely plan on watching this, try and catch it in like an IMAX hall or even GSC's big cinema at Starling, where they've got really good 5.1 surround sound. At points throughout this movie, during the party sequence, I thought there were people behind me talking, just because it was designed in such a way. And I feel all of it is not a flexing of a muscle. It's putting you in the discomfort of the characters within the movie.
And then later that sound design pays off because it is used as checkpoints as to what the characters are going through, and you understand why you're hearing it and why they're hearing it.
And why it's important.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
Like, Naomi Aki is really good. I don't know if you saw her. Like, she was excellent in I Want to Dance with Somebody, which was probably the best part of that Whitney Houston biopic, which was I felt a bit boring otherwise. But Naomi Aki as Whitney Houston was amazing. And it's
Mm.
great to see her in this as Frida because she plays she plays it so well. She goes through various iterations of this same character before kind of circling back at the end in a very, very smart way. And I thought all of that is incredibly believable, and you're just with her throughout. I mean, she is the primary focus, and she is in almost every scene in this movie. And
Yeah.
you have to be good to be able to pull that off, and she does. She is great. There are also some fantastic, I want to call them extended cameos. Christian Slater, Gina Davis. Haven't seen them in a long time, and it's great to see them on screen playing against type as well. They aren't playing the characters they usually play, and it's a lot of fun. Channing Tatum is phenomenal. He has this sociopathic, psychopathic streak that is covered up by the fact that he's an incredibly good looking man, and all of that plays together really well.
I think more than the fact that he's a good looking man, and you will have no arguments from me that Tatum fella is a good looking man, there's a charm about him as well. There's a disarming charm about Channing Tatum's Slater King. When the movie opens, you're immediately shown a clip of him apologizing on camera the way all these celebrities have at one time apologized on camera for. But when you actually meet him, there's a disarming charm about him. Channing Tatum plays Slater King as a guy who's actually been knocked down. You feel like he's been knocked back by whatever that's happened off screen, that he may have been, or rather, he may be a better man for it now.
Yes.
He may have actually apologized and felt sincere grief and regret at what he may or may not have done. And I think only Channing Tatum can pull that off. I can't think of anybody else who could pull that off without a twinkle in the eye.
I think a Josh Hartnett could after seeing him in Trap. It's the same kind of idea, isn't it? This idea that you really want to like him even though you shouldn't. Like, you know, at the back of your mind, this is that movie and I shouldn't like this character. But the way he is framed, here by Zoe Kravitz and in Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, it plays with you, the audience. And I think I really love that.
I think the casting of Channing Tatum here is interesting because of the real world personality that he has, or that he portrays, rather. He is the boyish, charming jock doofus. He plays a lot of those characters. I still can't forget the fact that Channing Tatum is the guy in the gimp mask in Seth Rogen's The End of the World. He is willing to take punches at himself for kicks and jokes. But good God, he can pull off these serious roles.
Yeah.
He can pull off these really just on-camera acting roles. You know, he's not just a pretty face. And as great as Naomi Aki was, I don't think it would have worked as well if she wasn't bouncing off of Channing Tatum.
I agree. Completely agree. There is a lot about this movie that really sets Zoe Kravitz up as a bona fide filmmaker. I'm really excited this thing exists. Like, it's been a long time since we've seen a thriller with such an interesting point of view. Like, there is so much attention to detail. So many times when we watch these things, even if it's a low budget Blumhouse thing, there is always this notion that it's going by template.
Here's the problem, right? Even with the Jason Blum thriller, other than the standout ones like Happy Death Day, a lot of them just lean on this idea that, hey, it's a thriller. We know what you're here for. You know what you're here for.
Yes.
I'm just going to give you that and be done with it. Whereas in Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz really plays with that thriller concept. Not a lot of sequences happen at night. They don't try and play in the dark. There are no real jump scares here. She doesn't give in to the base fears or the base tropes of what a thriller is. That confidence to attempt and pull it off is fantastic.
And also just the amount of focus she puts in on character. Like, the movie opens with a close-up of this frog, iguana-like creature, reptile creature. And as it pans out and you begin to see it come into focus, and then suddenly you get Naomi Aki's character on the toilet, looking at her phone, scrolling through what looks like Instagram Reels or TikTok or whatever. it's amazing how much you learn about the character within those first 3 minutes. What she likes, her obsessions, what she's paying attention to. No words are actually spoken.
But also, Zoe Kravitz never actually tells you that she's the hero, right? She is a quintessential Gen Z. She's not a hero. She is not a hero when this movie opens. She is not a special person when this movie opens. She is the million other Gen Zers on their phone scrolling through, and that plays out throughout the entire film. Her obsession with maybe Slater King's character, maybe her obsession with
I think living the good life.
living the good life. Yeah, that's a good way.
No,
to put
but there's a lot that happens here with regards to messaging, right? And none of the messaging is in your face. I mean, Zoe Kravitz paints a very interesting critique throughout this movie about tech bros, about, in inverted commas, nice guys, about women and empowerment and all of these grand statements about women, yet she doesn't do it in a 4-minute monologue like in Barbie. All of it is actually tersirat within this movie, but there is a critique on trauma culture, on victim culture. All of that stuff is there. It's contained within this film, and it's done very, very smartly. Like there is a message here without being a message. And that's what great art should be, right? Because for the most part, you're just caught up in the thrilling element, the twists, the turns, all of that stuff. But when you think a little more, you're like, oh, actually, this is pretty clever writing because it's all there.
You know what? As I left the cinema, the thing that kept coming up to me was this is a perfect girls' night out movie. This is the girls' night out after a couple of mimosas. This is the movie you want to go and watch. I feel like that's the market for this.
I totally get it. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, you know what
Until
I mean?
you
Like,
mentioned
that's
it.
the target.
And I'm like, yeah, as Blake Lively would say, maybe put on your florals and go watch Blink twice.
Yeah.
I feel like this is truly
white
empowering.
dress. Actually, white dress.
Actually, yes. Put on your
Yes.
white dress. You'll understand why when you see the movie. But put on your white dress and go watch Blink twice.
It's not that I don't want to take my wife to it. It's just that I think my wife will have a better time if she goes with your wife and their girlfriends. I think that's
so.
a much better time at the cinema.
That's marketing right there.
That's why my mom sent me to do my master's.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Watch Blink twice. It's now showing in Malaysian cinemas. It is definitely worth your time. It really sets Zoe Kravitz up in a whole new light. Let us know what you think once you've seen it. You know all of our social media feeds, Goggler MY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline, 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.